Hey, Patreons, welcome back to the Spotlight. This is our segment where we talk to folks in the pop culture space that have shaped the things that we enjoy. And we are sitting here this evening, Peter and myself, with Adam Mojo Lebowitz, who has shaped some of the absolute greatest work that we've seen for the last 30 plus years, actually over 30 years according to this. Star Trek, Voyager, Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5, which I'll let Peter talk about. I'm still not a convert, but he's going to get me there. Adam, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you today?
I'm great. You can call me Mojo, by the way, so everybody calls me.
Very good, Mojo. It is. All right. Well, let's jump right on into it. I mean, the resume is as long as my arm, but nobody wants to hear me talk about that. They want to hear you talk about that. How did you get the ball rolling? How did you get into the business?
Well, I guess it all started with Starlog magazine.
Yes.
Hopefully, some people in the audience remember Starlog. If you were a sci-fi fan in, I guess, 70s, 80s, 90s, Starlog was your Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And every month, Starlog really, when I think Star Wars came out, I was 10. I made my parents buy me every magazine that had an article about Star Wars in it, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
If People magazine had one page about Star Wars, I had to have it. And then I saw this magazine, Starlog, and there was something with Star Wars on the cover, and I flipped through it, and every page was science fiction. It wasn't just a couple of pages, and I had a cow standing there in like the stationery store looking at this magazine, and it became my go-to. And Starlog is what taught me about behind the scenes, about filmmaking and actors and model making and special effects, and it opened up a whole world to me, and that's when I kind of realized this is what I want to do. I want to make these sci-fi movies. However this happens, these people who do this is something that I think I want to do. And Starlog sent me down the rabbit hole of playing with my dad's movie camera and learning how to do my own special effects at home. I would hang my Star Wars and Galactica models on strings against black velvet, scratching lasers on the film, trying to make my own epic. And then, so it was a hobby of mine, sci-fi filmmaking when I was in junior high and high school. And when I was in high school, I got an internship at Starlog. Starlog was getting into film and television production, and the internship program was designed to let me work someplace in my field of interest for 6 months instead of going to school. And I remember when they went, so they accepted me into the program. Then they told me the 5 places they were sending me to for an interview. And there was an editing place, a broadcasting place, a news channel. And then they went, oh, and there's some place called Starlog magazine. And I flipped out.
Oh my God.
Kirk. First of all, it was surprising because that was a magazine. Why are they on the list of places that they'd be sending me to for film and television? But Starlog was getting into film and television production, and they needed an intern. And honestly, the list of people I wanted to meet was short. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and Kerry O'Quinn, the publisher of Starlog. Those were my 3 idols. Because aside from teaching you about filmmaking, every month Kerry's editorials were all about inspiration and following your dreams. Because every fan who read the magazine, most of them wanted to work in the same business. We all wanted to work in Hollywood, and his editorials fueled that passion. And so finally getting an internship at Starlog was just, the ultimate dream come true. And I learned so much about production and about writing pitches and proposals and how Hollywood works. And it was such an invaluable education. And to this day, almost every day I utilize something Kerry O'Quinn taught me himself. So awesome. I love just how perfect that symmetry is. That Starlog is what started everything for me. It didn't just inspire me, but it actually got me in the door.
That's wild.
And then writing articles about the video toaster and Lightwave for Cinemagic and Starlog is what got my foot in the door at New Tech. So then I got the job at New Tech, is where I met Ron Thornton, who would be doing the visual effects for Babylon 5 with the video toaster and the Amiga. And that's how everything came together. I was learning Lightwave because I thought it was cool, and no one else in the world even heard of computer graphics. So Ron
Yeah.
hired me as an assistant on the pilot of Babylon 5, almost by process of elimination. He met me at New Tech. I was learning Lightwave. He didn't know anyone else who was learning Lightwave. So I just kind of got hired because I was, in the right place at the right time.
You got the job, and that's interesting because Babylon 5. Peter, another one of our shows we do is we talk about older shows and break things down, and Peter is now going to make me watch Babylon 5, but I know that he wants to talk to you about Babylon 5, so I'm not going to get in the way. Go right ahead.
Okay. Speaking of, as mentioned, Babylon 5, you were involved in that basically from its beginning.
Yep.
And one of the things that I came into it a bit later because I was small in the 90s and we didn't have access to everything. But I watched it later as an adult and had a great appreciation for all the things that were being done on it. But one of the things I noticed is how much CG was used in that show, both for the exteriors, because that's basically everything. And then there was, then for the exotic locations, there was CG for backgrounds, which was kind of groundbreaking before now everyone's like, oh well, they do that in the volume, of course. That's not what was going on here. So do you have favorite moments or memories from that, from pioneering all of that stuff, and then any reaction to how it's now kind of changed and become kind of a thing that everyone just kind of oh yeah, that's a thing and we just do it all the time now?
Well, yeah, no, I remember very, very distinctly the moment I saw the future. Ron Thornton was a genius. Ron Thornton, didn't invent the software, but he thought of ways to use it that just most people weren't thinking of. I remember specifically, we did the title sequence for Babylon 5 where the logo comes in, there's a lens flare and all this. So Ron specifically wanted a lens flare feature for Lightwave so we could do that. And that was a great thing about working on the pilot of Babylon 5 is because we were so entrenched with New Tech, the software company, when we needed a feature, we would tell the programmers, Alan Hastings wrote Lightwave and Stuart Ferguson wrote the modeler. We'd say, hey, we need to do this shot, so we need this feature. They would write it overnight, and then the next morning we would download a new version of Lightwave that had that feature.
Awesome.
And so we had the lens flare feature, which was used as a lens flare a few times. And then probably within the first month, Ron showed me a shot where he used the flare to simulate the engines on the back of a spaceship. And it was perfect, and it looked fantastic. And I never would have thought of that. I admit, it was so obvious and so perfect and so easy. I just never would have thought of it, and it created this amazing effect that just everybody would use. But the big one was, I forget what season it was, probably season 1, maybe season 2. There's a shot on the bridge of the Narn cruiser. And other than the captain and the two guys sitting in a chair, the entire bridge, the background was all CG.
Wow.
And I know clearly that's the first time anyone has ever done that. The first time someone did a virtual background was that. And you know what? I don't think that shot, no one really even talked about it. It was just done. But I remember looking at that going, oh my God, wow, I just never thought of that, generating the bridge with CG. And it looked great. It looked fine. I don't think any viewer ever noticed. It was very, very natural. But I think that was the first time anyone had ever done that. And it looked great. And I'm like, wow, that opens up. I just thought of it for spaceships. But that moment, I saw how much CGI could be used for everything in the future. And that moment led to your background right now, the command center on Babylon 5, which was all CG, I think, for Blood and Chrome. So, and again, I don't think most people noticed. And so that was a big moment on Babylon 5 is seeing CGI used to create a set. And realizing, oh wow, this has got a lot more potential than I ever thought of. And Ron just probably whipped it up in a couple of days. He only needed a small section of it for the shot, but it looked great. And more importantly, just nobody noticed. People would complain sometimes of Babylon 5, oh, I can tell it's CGI, this, that. Yeah, you can tell the CGI is CGI when you know it's CGI.
Yeah.
But how many spots, like that did you not even notice? So
Right.
that
The
was a
CGI
really
because
big
you know
moment.
the ships are, but anything else.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody even knows that. Babylon 5 probably isn't credited for being the first time anyone did a virtual set. But it really is the first time anyone did anything with CGI. And I'm very careful for the distinction because Tron and Last Starfighter absolutely preceded Babylon 5. But the difference was Tron and Last Starfighter were one-off projects done on military supercomputers, and
Right.
everything was custom. You know,
Yeah.
Tron didn't lead to 10 more movies using CGI. You know, Last Starfighter did not lead to a whole new revolution in CGI. They were done
Right.
once, and that was it.
Right.
Babylon 5 was the beginning of the revolution. I
Yeah.
call Babylon 5 not the beginning of the CGI era, but Babylon 5 was the beginning of the modern CGI era,
Yeah.
of the CGI industry. Babylon 5 started there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
And I don't think most people in the world, the zeitgeist, they don't seem to understand. Everyone, I'm sure, thinks it was either maybe Jurassic Park or Star Wars or Star Trek was first.
Yeah.
Babylon 5 was first, and everything we did was a first. And I was very much aware every day that we are doing something special, and
Yeah.
everything we were doing was a first. We did the creature in Grail, in the first season. No one had ever done a CGI creature. We had no idea how to do it or what we were doing. But Joe Straczynski called and said, "Can you guys do a creature? I'd like to write an episode with a creature." And Ron said, "Absolutely." And then he says, "How do we do a creature with CG?" And his biggest thing, though, was to make sure the audience knew there's no way this can be a guy in a suit. So that was the biggest part of the design for that, is a design that even subconsciously the audience knows this is not a guy in a suit.
Right.
Awesome. And so everything we did really was a first. You know, we were inventing the playbook as we went, and it was fun and exciting. And we don't have to go into it now, but that's kind of how I feel about AI right now. You know, for the last year,
you jumped into my very next question. Yeah, please.
And I'm telling you, you know, when someone comes to me with an idea or a project, or I have an idea for a shot for AI, I'm like, can AI do this? I don't know. It sounds like a lot to ask. Let's find out. And there is so much fun and excitement in being on that frontier of, you know, of doing things. There's stuff I'm doing with AI. It could be the first time anyone's done something like this with AI, because I know I've been kind of on the cutting edge for it for like the last 18 months or so. And and look, Babylon 5 was the beginning of an industry, but at least for the last 10 years, it is purely treated as a commodity industry. CGI is in everything now. Every shot is done with CGI. It's used for, you know, everything from spaceships to getting rid of the underarm sweats in an actor. The fun, it's hard to find joy in CGI anymore. It's hard to find a project where you're given creative freedom to just do what you want and have fun, and you don't have 10 producers making you redo everything 50 times for no good reasons. That's part of why I prefer working in television. It's funny, everyone looks at feature films as being the apex. Everyone wants to work on a feature. When I worked at the third floor after Battlestar Galactica, doing previews for feature films like, what was it, Men in Black and Battleship, it wasn't as much fun. I mean, yeah, great, I'm working on a big movie, but there was nonstop studio interference, nonstop producers asking you to redo things 50 times that we as a team already knew. It was perfect a month ago, and now we're just redoing it for the sake of it. That doesn't happen on television. There's no time for that in television. Battlestar Galactica, everybody who worked on the show will agree, best work experience of our life. It had
that's what I've always heard.
That working on a show that you almost never have. One, it's a good show. You're putting all this time and effort into making a good show. Two, people are actually watching it. It was popular enough to stay on the air. Most sci-fi shows, one season and they're done. You know, Galactica, and the odds were against us, man. Everybody was laughing at the idea of bringing back Battlestar Galactica. People would snicker. The first year when I worked on that show, when people would say, "What are you working on, Mojo?" Battlestar Galactica. Oh, is that still on? Everyone asked the same thing. Is that still on? Thinking it's been on the air since 1978. And somehow people don't realize the show's been on for 30 years. and it's still that popular. So no, it took like at least 2 years before people even realized there was a new Battlestar Galactica. But it hit like a ton of bricks. Everybody loved it. It was a darling with the critics, and it was a great show. So I'm working on a great show. People are watching it, and the people I'm working for were cool.
Yeah.
Ron Moore was the best possible showrunner. He hired us to do our thing, and he let us do our thing. And rarely would we get notes or revisions on shots. So we got to design all those space battles and come up with all that stuff ourselves. You know, we almost never got storyboards. We would get the script, and we'd be like, oh no. I mean, my favorite example is Exodus Part 2 when the Pegasus is destroyed.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
That shot.
When we first got the script, the Pegasus death was the whole thing with the Pegasus was one shot. Pegasus rammed the spaceship and over. And I got this script and I'm like, no. The Pegasus, it's not just a spaceship at this point. It's been a character on the show for a year. That was the coolest thing. When we started working on the 2-part Pegasus episode, we all assumed, like the original, when the episode's over, Pegasus will be gone.
Right.
But they kept the ship. That was really unexpected. That was an awesome extra component to the show for a year. And so when it's time to write out the Pegasus, we all agreed, no, it has to go out in a blaze of glory. It can't just be one shot and done. So I spent 2 weeks, and Gary said, all right, Gary Hutzel, our VFX supervisor, said, all right, Mojo, let's show them something, come up with something. So I spent 2 weeks creating this whole pre-visualization for the Pegasus taking on 3 base ships, just like it did in the original series. That was my goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also had to, there's a lot to be balanced. It's great to say, yeah, we just wanted to make a cooler sequence, but we weren't going to get any more money for it. You know, the budget's set. So I wanted to make this, instead of one shot, a whole big space battle. I also have to keep in mind, we're not getting any extra money for it. So I had to make sure the shots were doable, you know, and I didn't have any extra shots that would take 3 or 4 days to finish. But the point is, we got to run and play. You know, Star Trek was great to work on. It's an institution. When we found out we were going to be working on Voyager, we all just kind of stopped and went, wow, Star Trek's where it all started for all of us. What an honor to be able to contribute to the Star Trek legacy. But Star Trek also at that point, beginning with Next Generation, had a long history, a big hierarchy of producers and people who shots. So we did have creative freedom here and there, but we weren't rewriting entire scenes of the script. We weren't just changing everything because it would be cool. On Galactica, we were allowed to do that. And it was appreciated. I think my greatest moment, personal moment of satisfaction on the show, people assume it was winning the Emmy for Exodus. That was great, but it was actually, I forget the name of the episode, but it's the episode where Starbuck and Apollo are going over Starbuck's brand new Viper. She's back from the dead, and they decide the coordinates for Earth are probably in this Viper.
Right.
They look at the computer and they find some mystery coordinates, and they just figure, this is it. Oh my God, we have the coordinates for Earth. Then the next scene, they're on the bridge of the Galactica saying, okay, let's do it. Let's hit that button, go to Earth. Now, in between those 2 scenes, there was just an establishing shot of the fleet. Every time you needed to transition time, because Starbuck and Apollo were in the landing bay, but the next scene is on the bridge of the Galactica. So you have to establish some time has passed. So you just have a 5-second shot of the fleet. There's a fleet, then you cut to the Galactica. And that's what the script called for. In between those 2 scenes, just a little 5-second establishing shot of the fleet. And I read that, went, no, wait a minute here, hold on, because I looked at the live action, and I look at the scene where Starbuck and Apollo are in the landing bay, and they're going, oh my God, we have the coordinates for Earth. And then the next scene, all right, let's hit the jump button, go to Earth. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a huge moment. This is like everything the show, the audience doesn't know yet that it's not really what they think it is.
Oh God, heartbreaking.
The characters in the show think we are about to go to Earth. And I'm like, we need some, this can't just be a little 5-second shot of the fleet. This needs to be a moment. And so I tried to figure out, well, what is this? And to me, it's like the whole family is ready to cross the finish line here. So I just came up with the shot. I decided I want to see the whole fleet. So I started at the back of the fleet, and the camera's moving up. You see one ship, then another ship, and the camera just trucks across the entire fleet. and then swings around and ends with the Galactica in front with the big sun behind it, with all the ships behind it, the proud papa ready to take all the kids, home. And I did the shot, and I loved the shot. I thought, okay, this is what the shot needs. And I show it to Gary. But here was the problem. Battlestar Galactica was a very dense show. And on TV, you have to be 44 minutes. And they were always running long. It always needed an extra minute, extra 2 minutes. And every now and then, Sci-Fi Channel would say, okay, you can be 46 minutes this week. But that was only on occasion. So they were always trying. There was an episode where they literally went into every single shot and cut out one frame because they needed like 3 seconds. And they had to make it up somehow. They were cutting one to get to 3 seconds. So here I am. They wanted a 5-second shot of the fleet. Now I have a 20-second epic. And Gary's like, yeah, that's a good shot. Let's send it in and see what they say. And I'm like, they're never going to go for it. Editorial's going to look at this shot and say, 20 seconds? We never have time. But the next day, there was a call. Mojo, Ron Moore is on the line for you. And my first thought is, what did I do? What did I do now? And I had no idea, literally, why is Ron calling me? So Ron calls, says, Mojo, we're in the edit bay. We just saw that shot you gave us. Thank you so much. You know what? That's exactly what the show needed at that point. I never would have thought of that. Thank you for making it a better episode. And that phone call is my proudest moment on the show. When I did some random shot that I thought the show needed, and the producer called me and said, thank you, that's exactly what we needed. And I just wouldn't have thought of it. So,
oh my gosh.
Hearing, and it's very easy for people to think, oh, you're just doing the CGI. It's just a bunch of spaceships. It doesn't affect the story. It's not important to the show. It's all important to the show.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I do a shot, I am not thinking about how cool can I make this. I look at the surrounding story and say, what is going on in this shot? And what do I want the audience to feel at this moment? That's what led to that 20-second epic, is me realizing, no, this is a big moment. Mm-hmm. And we have to run with that. And just finding out that my instincts were correct, and that it was appreciated was, I get chills just thinking about that when the phone. Yeah. I remember looking at the phone, wondering, why is Ron calling me? What did I do?
Principal's office, right?
So that was the pleasure of working on Galactica.
That's amazing. No, we've been we're hopeful in the near future through contact that we're going to connect with Ron, because we would love to have a conversation with him, just because lifelong appreciator of his work. So it is great to hear a story like that. And you've covered a lot of things we wanted to ask you just by talking, which I think is absolutely tremendous. But Peter, I think you had kind of the swan song before I wrap things up. What's your question?
Okay. So you've helped also with some of the bringing the ships to life in book form with like Ships of the Line and some of the owner's manuals. Which I love because, I get to see different angles of the ships that you don't always get to see when they're on screen. So was there any difference when you were working on that with the books versus working on the films? Because I know that you basically build the models similarly, but is there any difference in like what you were creating, and did you have any input on that?
Well, in how the Ships of the Line was different because, when you're working on a television show or a movie, you're doing a shot, it's 24 frames in a second, and you're looking at the whole of that shot as the statement. When you're doing an image for book or a calendar, that one image is the statement. So first of all, there was the technical issue of when you're looking at something on an NTSC television screen from across the living room that goes by in 5 seconds, you can't see every detail and know how fake it looks. When you're putting that image in a book on the page and just staring at it, it has to look a lot more real. And I can't say that when we first started, we had done that. Because also, again, everything was first. No one was publishing CGI images at that kind of resolution in a book or a calendar. So we didn't know what it was going to look like until we saw it. And that's when we realized, for print work, we would have to change the lighting or adjust the contrast or make some tweaks. So what looked good on a screen would look good in print. we found out the hard way by doing it and looking at it and going, oh my God, we didn't know it was going to look like that because it's a very different medium. So I'm glad it was a huge success. I mean, Ships of the Line is now still the most popular Star Trek calendar. We also didn't know how that would go. You know, we didn't know if that was going to sell. If people just, I mean, look, as a fan, it's the same pictures of the actors every month, and you get one spaceship picture.
Yeah.
I always thought Ships of the Line should have reversed it. You should have a centerfold with the actors, and every other shot should have been the spaceship. It showed people want to see the ships, you know, and it's still to this day really popular. And obviously, the quality of the work in the calendar now is far beyond what we could have done, 25 years ago.
Right.
So spaceships are popular.
Yeah, no, I've gotten that calendar nearly every year for the past 25. I've just got next year's a couple of weeks ago. I'm a ship guy. My championship, there will be never be another, is the Connie 2, from Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Of course.
I read once, and I totally agree with it. Can't be photographed at a bad. There's no bad angle for that ship. It's beautiful.
There should be a calendar of just that ship. Honestly,
I buy it every year.
1 year, just make that ship.
And they tried to harness that with the Connie 3 in the third season of Picard. I guess they did okay, but they just will never be another. It's the first great love, you know what I mean? So, oh my God, Mojo, this has been tremendous. My God, what are you working on these days? I know you're a very busy guy because
we can keep going, and you can make another episode out if you want. I mean.
We will figure that out. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But give me the short version. What's going on with you right now? And we'll come back. We'll do a part 2.
Right now, I think I'm still not allowed to say the name of the movie I'm working on, so I can't say that. But I'm working. To make a long story short, about 18 months ago when the AI thing first really hit, I remember it was during the writer's strike. That first demo of Sora came out where you just typed in a prompt and you got a video. I remember it was a Western town and that Japanese woman or the Chinese woman walking at the night scene in Tokyo. No one saw it coming. It's my business. And of course, things like Midjourney were there doing imagery. And we would talk about how long do you think you could do video? And we're like, God, maybe never. I don't know. It just seemed like too impossible. And, a year later, boom. And the whole industry saw that and went, oh my God, what does this mean for us? And everybody just assumed it's the writing on the wall. I don't know if it's going to be 5 years or 10 years, but it looks like this AI thing is going to put everybody out of work. And it was it wasn't just a wake-up call, it was scary. I mean, it was already during the strike. That was the thing. During the strike, everybody doesn't know how long the strike's going to last. When the strike ends, we're all going to start competing with each other to get these jobs. The studios had already announced they were cutting back because the streaming model wasn't sustainable, which we all knew when they announced it. When every studio announced they wanted to be the new Netflix, we all knew that's not going to happen. You can't all be Netflix. But they didn't care. We're going to do it anyway. And so it all imploded. Anyway, the bottom line was they announced they were cutting back. So after the strike, the jobs were going to be fewer jobs. And we were all going to have to fight each other for those jobs. And now here is this AI thing. So great, when the strike's over, we can get back to work. But how much longer are we even going to have work? And so everybody was going through this existential crisis. And I went through it too. I was working on a project for Asylum. And I knew it was going to be the last film I was working on for them for a while. And I started thinking, what am I going to do? I got to find new ways to reinvent myself. And I thought, well, I could learn Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is the new big hot thing. And it's free. And if I learn Unreal Engine, I could be more employable. But then everyone's learning Unreal Engine for the same reason. And like I was explaining earlier, the world of CGI isn't as much fun as it used to be. So I would be learning Unreal Engine to compete for jobs that wouldn't be that much fun to begin with. And I thought, well, let me learn more about this AI thing. What else can it do? What's out there? And so I started digging in, and I'm like, well, clearly it seems like the first thing AI might affect are visual effects. It seemed like it's naturally going to come for us, monsters and all the crazy things it can do. So honestly, more out of a sense of duty to my field, I thought, all right, let me open up some of this software. Let me see what it can do. And I spent 48 hours with it and did like this little special effects sequence. And, you know, everybody still thinks, everyone who hasn't tried it yet, AI is easy. Any monkey can do it, takes no artistic skill whatsoever. 48 hours, shot that down real fast. The way I like to differentiate it is, yes, anybody can get a great result out of AI. If you want to see two dogs playing cards with a couple of dolphins, you just type that in, you'll get back a very pretty picture that does that. And it took no art or no work. But if you have a picture in your head of what you think that should look like, if you have a specific idea of what the dog should be wearing and what the dolphins would look like, do they have cigars? Do they not have cigars? What does the room look like? Is it a futuristic room? Is it a dingy back alley room? If you have a picture in your head and you sit down and type dolphins and dogs playing cards, the picture you get back is likely to be nothing like what you had in your head. You're like, oh, well, I want the roof to be red and I want the cards to look like this. And once you try to get it to look the way you want it to look, that is the uphill battle. That takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like anything else, if you're creating a pretty picture or video, you still have to know, what is it going to look like? What am I trying to say with this? And only people with artistic skill and training and background in the industry know how to do those things. Right now, I'm seeing it happen. Producers want to hire AI artists because they like everything's cheaper and faster with AI. And so they hire some people who are good with AI, and then they realize all the experience they didn't think they needed in that artist, 20 years of working in the industry and just knowing how things should look and how to interface with people. These new AI artists, they don't have any of that. They come to this job with no skill other than knowing how to do stuff with AI. And producers are realizing, oh, what I actually need is an experienced visual effects artist who also knows AI. And that's what's starting to happen. The industry is starting to realize you can't just hire an AI artist and just expect to do everything cheap and easy. All the experience that traditional artists bring to the table is very, very, very important. And in the early days of CGI, now instead of $1 million worth of motion control equipment and optical printers, you just need a few $1,000s worth of computers and you can do special effects like ILM. So every producer like, oh my God, I'll just rent an office, buy 10 computers, and find 10 random people who know how to use the software, and I'll start making movies.
Yeah.
Oh, all that experience traditional artists had who learned CGI. You know, that's what Ron brought to the table. Ron Thornton was one of the first experienced artists, visual effects people, to pick it up and start seeing what he could do with it. And all the skill he had of doing practical visual effects is what made him great at doing CGI. And right now, the people who are doing the best work with AI are people who are already filmmakers, who are already artists, using it as a tool to create things they never could have done by themselves. That would have been too expensive. In any case, I spent 48 hours with AI and went, wow, this is actually really cool. And it actually takes all the skill I've developed over 30 years to make it do what I want to do. And I felt like, I think I'm kind of in a position to utilize this. So I started learning it. And then the big thing was I started calling my friends. I thought all my friends who were doing VFX were doing the same thing. I figured they were all looking at AI and seeing what it could do. None of them were. No one I knew had tried it out yet. Yeah. So I sat there going, AI is here. It looks like it could be an important, powerful force in Hollywood. I think I have an aptitude for it, and no one else is learning it. So you know what? I'm going to put all my eggs in the AI basket. Forget Unreal Engine, get CGI. I'm going to start learning AI. And if it actually becomes a thing, maybe I'll get hired just like with Babylon 5. I never even saw that connection. I got hired at Babylon 5 because no one else knew anything about CGI. And I got my new job with AI because there was no one else who had the kind of experience that I have who also knew AI. They wanted someone who was experienced with pre-visualization who could also do stuff with AI because they knew their script had moments in it that would be prohibitively expensive to do with traditional CG and comp, but it's just built for AI. So they wanted someone who could do both. So
Awesome.
it's a big movie. It'll be out next theory. They want it out in what, 2027? No,
Okay,
2027. Spring of 2027.
cool.
And it's going to be the movie everyone. It's not sci-fi. That's the only clue I can give. Even I was
Okay.
when I first heard what it was, I thought, oh, do I really want to work on that? And then I just, well, first of all, I wanted the job, so.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
I'm glad. This is a great project.
Yeah.
It's going to be the movie everyone will be talking about, and hopefully there'll be some controversy about the AI, because there's no such thing as bad publicity as long as
I
people are
guess.
talking about it.
Well, I will tell you what, by the time we get there, we stay in touch. Maybe
We'll
we'll
do
have
this
you back.
again.
The three of us will talk about that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up now. Mojo, this has been awesome. Where do people find you out there on the socials?
Oh, I mean, honestly, I'm an old man. I'm on Facebook most of the time. I do have an
That's
Instagram
cool.
account. I'm on Instagram. You can look up Darth Mojo
Great.
on Instagram.
Cool.
Look up Darth Mojo. I post stuff there now and then too.
Cool.
That's about it.
Good deal. That works. Well, thank you so much
Thank you
for
guys.
this. Yeah, you bet. Patrons, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening to this on our free feed, please pop over to patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Try us out for 7 days for free, and let's do great conversations like the one that we've had with Mojo. We will catch up with you next time, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks to all the viewers. See you later.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.